Conor McGregor, a name that instantly divides the fight world. For some, he's the greatest showman MMA has ever seen, a trailblazer who carried the UFC into mainstream culture. For others, he's a controversial figure whose career is as much about scandals outside the cage as it is about victories inside it. But no one can deny that the Notorious is one of the most influential fighters in history. His rise was meteoric, highlight reel knockouts, razor-sharp trash talk that dismantled opponents before the fight even started, and an unmatched charisma that made every press conference feel like a main event. McGregor wasn't just a fighter. He was a global brand, a symbol of ambition, risk, and success. But today, the burning question remains: will Conor McGregor ever return to the Octagon? At just 35 years old, he's no longer the hungry young Irishman who walked into the UFC with nothing but a dream and iron fists. His life has transformed dramatically, from struggling in Dublin and collecting welfare checks to living in mansions, flying private jets, and running multi-million-dollar businesses. Yet with all the fame, fortune, and chaos that surrounds him now, the mystery of his fighting future keeps fans guessing. Stay with me until the very end, because how McGregor truly lives today, and what it means for his career, might just surprise you. McGregor's rise to fame is nothing short of legendary. Just over a decade ago, he was a struggling young man in Dublin, living off welfare checks of less than $300 a month, dreaming of one day making it big in the fight game. Armed with unshakable self-belief, knockout power, and a mouth that could sell a fight better than anyone before him, he stormed into the UFC and immediately caught the world's attention. His sharp wit and bold predictions weren't just talk. He backed them up inside the cage with brutal precision. The defining moment of his early career came in December 2015, when McGregor shocked the world by knocking out longtime featherweight king Jose Aldo in just 13 seconds. That single punch didn't just win him the belt, it instantly made him a superstar. From there, his wars with Nate Diaz showcased not only his skill, but also his heart, proving he could bounce back from defeat and deliver a performance that kept fans glued to their screens. In 2016, McGregor made history once again by defeating Eddie Alvarez to become the UFC's first-ever simultaneous two-division champion, holding both the featherweight and lightweight belts at the same time. No fighter had ever done it before, and the achievement solidified his place in MMA history. But McGregor's ambitions didn't stop there. In 2017, he stepped into an entirely different world, professional boxing, facing none other than Floyd Mayweather Jr., in a spectacle that became one of the highest-grossing events in combat sports history. But with fame and fortune came controversy, and Conor McGregor quickly discovered that living in the global spotlight can be both a blessing and a curse. Outside the cage, his name was often splashed across headlines for reasons that had nothing to do with fighting. From bar altercations in Dublin to run-ins with the law to viral videos of public confrontations, McGregor's behavior began raising eyebrows. Critics accused him of losing the hunger that once fueled his rise, trading discipline and focus for the distractions of luxury, wealth, and celebrity life. The fighter who had once seemed unstoppable now looked like he was spiraling out of control. Inside the Octagon, the struggles became even more visible. After reaching the pinnacle of the sport, losses started to pile up. His defeat to Khabib Nurmagomedov in 2018 exposed gaps in his game and led to one of the most chaotic post-fight scenes in UFC history. His highly anticipated return fights failed to recreate the magic of his prime years. Younger, hungrier fighters began to surpass him, and the aura of invincibility that once surrounded McGregor seemed to fade with every setback. Then came the moment that shocked fans worldwide. In July 2021, during his trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier, McGregor suffered a devastating leg break that left him writhing on the canvas in agony. The image of the Notorious sitting against the cage with a shattered leg was burned into the minds of millions. For many, it was the ultimate symbol of his downfall. Suddenly, the biggest question wasn't when he would fight again. It was whether he would ever fight again at all. Still, fighting is in his blood, and for Conor McGregor, walking away completely has never seemed like an option. Time and time again, he has fueled speculation of a comeback. Whether it's through posting intense training footage on social media, throwing verbal jabs at rivals, or casually dropping hints during interviews, McGregor keeps reminding the world that the Notorious isn't done just yet. He has called out names from old foes like Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz to potential mega-fights with newer stars who could benefit from his global spotlight. Every time he teases a return, the MMA world explodes with debate, showing just how magnetic his presence still is. And it's not just McGregor talking. The UFC itself has every reason to want him back. No fighter in history has sold more pay-per-views, filled more arenas, or generated more headlines than Conor McGregor. For Dana White and the UFC brass, a McGregor fight isn't just another event. It's a global spectacle, capable of breaking records and pulling in millions of dollars. That's why rumors of his return seem to surface every few months, keeping fans on edge. But the reality is more complicated. After years of wars inside the cage, devastating losses, and most importantly, the brutal leg break he suffered in 2021, questions about his physical readiness remain unanswered. Is his body still capable of withstanding the punishment of the highest level of competition? Even if it is, does he still have the same fire, hunger, and discipline that once propelled him to greatness? Or has the fame, fortune, and luxury lifestyle dulled the edge that made him the Notorious? This uncertainty leaves fans torn. Some believe Conor will rise again, fueled by pride and legacy. Others think the talk of a comeback is more about keeping himself relevant, staying in the headlines, and reminding the world that his name still matters. Either way, McGregor's future remains one of the most hotly debated questions in combat sports today. Today, Conor McGregor truly lives like a rock star, enjoying the kind of lifestyle most fighters can only dream of. Surrounded by luxury, he divides his time between his sprawling mansions in Ireland and abroad, often traveling the world with his entourage in private jets. Nights out on his yachts, appearances at red carpet events, and spontaneous social media posts keep fans glued to his every move. Yet behind all the glitz and glamour, there's also a softer, more personal side to him. McGregor remains grounded through his family life with his longtime partner, Dee Devlin, who has been by his side since the very beginning of his journey. Together, they're raising their 3 children, and Conor often shares moments of himself as a proud father, taking time away from the spotlight to be present with his kids. For someone who built his career on chaos and controversy, these glimpses of normalcy show a man who values the people closest to him above everything else. At the same time, McGregor hasn't abandoned the grind that made him famous. He continues to train regularly, keeping his body in shape and fueling speculation about a potential return. He's constantly promoting his businesses, whether it's Proper Number 12, his pubs in Ireland, or his fitness ventures. Even without stepping inside the Octagon, McGregor has managed to remain a central figure in combat sports, proving that his ability to command attention hasn't faded one bit. In many ways, Conor McGregor no longer fights just for wins and losses. He fights for relevance, legacy, and the spotlight. And as long as he continues to balance his larger-than-life persona with his family responsibilities, his story will always fascinate fans around the globe. Conor McGregor's future remains one of the biggest mysteries in combat sports. Fans, analysts, and even fellow fighters continue to ask the same question. Will we ever see the Notorious walk into the Octagon again? Or has his fighting career already reached its final chapter? On one hand, the hunger, the spotlight, and the roar of the crowd are things McGregor has always thrived on. On the other hand, the injuries, the controversies, and the unimaginable wealth he has accumulated make a return far from necessary. But whether or not McGregor laces up his gloves again, one thing is beyond debate. His mark on the sport of MMA is permanent. He shattered records, crossed over into mainstream culture, and turned himself into a global icon, unlike anything the UFC had ever seen before. His knockouts, his trash talk, his press conference antics, and his larger-than-life personality changed the way the fight game is promoted and consumed. Love him or hate him, every fighter who came after has benefited from the doors McGregor forced open. Even now, years after his last victory inside the cage, Conor McGregor remains the most talked-about fighter in the world. His every move is followed, his every word becomes a headline, and his name alone still has the power to electrify an entire sport. Whether he fights again or not, the Notorious will always be remembered not just as a champion, but as a phenomenon that forever altered the landscape of combat sports.